Just so everyone does know, this will be recorded so that you will be able to watch it in case your internet kicks out or anything. It's not like you'll miss anything because you will have access to it later on as well. Is that better? Okay, we'll get started and people will probably just straggle in. So welcome everyone to today's webinar from MFC Training for our international crowd. So we're going to talk about our flight school. Meet your host. My name is Lydia Williams. I am the Student Service Administrator here at MFC Training. So my job is to help connect you with all the information that you need to apply. And then once you're here with us, I help you figure things out in your first day on the first space that you see. And then we'll hand it over to Kerry Taylor and he'll talk a little bit about what he does here at MFC.
Hi, everyone. I am Kerry Taylor. I do admissions and recruiting here at the Moncton Flight College. I've been doing this since about 2010. I've worked for the Moncton Flight College since 2008. So Lady and I work closely together to bring everyone to MFC.
So today's agenda, we're going to go over a little bit about who we are and MFC as a whole. Then we'll go into the specifics about our professional programs. Then we're going to answer the top questions that we receive from our international students. Following that, you guys will get to ask us your burning questions. So you'll be able to type your questions in towards the end, and then we'll answer as many as we can.
Hi, guys. The Moncton Flight College first took flight in 1929. MFC Training is 92 years old this year. In 2001, MFC became one of a handful of flight schools in Canada to be able to offer Transport Canada integrated training. These are very structured programs that are geared to training airline pilots and have options to fast track the airline transport license, or as we call the ATPL. In 2020, the Moncton Flight College rebranded to MFC Training. We did this to show our commitment to professional training and that we are a global training facility, as we have students come from all over the world. We are known for all over the world for our quality of training. MFC Training operates our programs out of the Moncton campus in Moncton, New Brunswick. Since 1929, we've trained over 22,000 pilots from over 80 countries. We are one of the largest flight schools in Canada with a capacity for over 450 students and fly over 90,000 flight syllabus hours per year. MFC Training operates a fleet of 57 aircraft. Our main trainer is the DA-20 Eclipse. We have the largest diamond fleet in Canada. We also operate Cessna 172s, Piper Seminoles for the multi-engine training, and King Air aircraft. The bottom line is that we have lots of aircraft to facilitate all of the flying we do. This will speed up training and ensure on-time completions.
So as Kerry mentioned, we have a number of different campuses. Our professional programs are run out of the Moncton campus, which is located next to the Greater Moncton Romeo LeBlanc International Airport. Although we do fly out of an international airport, it is busier than if you compare it to some of the other Canadian airports, which means that you have less time waiting to get up into the air. And we have 19 different training facilities around Moncton, which means that we are maximizing training time because you get there faster and can get to your training rather than sitting and waiting. Moncton as a whole in Atlantic Canada has the nicest weather. Of course, we are still Canada, so we have 4 different seasons. We get snow in the winter and we have thunderstorms in the summer and, you know, a little bit of in between, but we fly all year round. So we're going to be talking about our 3 professional programs. The first one is the Integrated Commercial Pilot course. You'll hear us refer to that as the Icpc program. We have a Diploma in Aviation Technology. We refer to that as the Diploma program, and we have 2 different types of undergraduate programs, and we refer to those as the degree programs. So all 3 of those programs have some general requirements. In terms of applying for our international students, we typically recommend around 6 months out so that it leaves you plenty of time for your medical and visa processing, because I know sometimes you guys have a little bit more of a time constraint. The first thing that you'll need to apply is Category 1 medical. This is often the most stressful part for students, but we are happy to help walk you through, send you a link to let you know that like the closest one for you. If you have questions about the process, we can help answer them to make it a less stressful occurrence. You have to be 17 to be accepted into the program and have to be 18 at least by the time that you are completing the program so you can hold your licenses. And for education, you need to have a high school diploma or equivalency. If you are in grade 12, don't panic. We can take your halfway term marks while you're waiting to finish up high school. So we can make that work if you're not quite done high school yet. I think you're still muted, Carrie.
Sorry about that. We offer 2 degree programs in partnership with Mount Allison University that's located in Sackville, New Brunswick. The Bachelor of Science program is in its 14th year, and the Bachelor of Commerce was started in the fall of 2020. So we're just getting ready to start the second year of that program. This is a unique program that will offer the commercial flight training as well as one of the degrees, all to be completed in 4 years. Upon completion, you will hold a degree and a full Canadian commercial pilot license. The Diploma in Aviation Technology program. So as well as the full commercial training, you will also complete this program with a college diploma, all over 2 academic years or in 20 months. This program intakes every September. The Integrated Commercial Pilot course, or Icpc, as we like to call it, is set to complete in just 12 months. Intakes are January, May, and August. The next intake will be on January 10th, 2022. This program will actually fast track you into the captain seat. So here you can compare the differences in the different programs. So while program length, entry requirements, and education level will vary, in the end, the flight training is virtually the same for all 3 options. They are all designed for building airline pilots. The Icpc is the essence of being a pilot. You're in and out in 1 year. In the diploma program, we're adding the college diploma, but you're still doing the same flight training. So this is great for students that are coming right out of high school. Our degree programs would offer that higher level of education if a degree is what you were looking for. But again, you're still doing the same flight training in all 3 programs.
So next, we're going to move on to some of the top questions that we get from international students. Is a visa required to study in Canada? Yes, you will need a visa to come to Canada. We recommend that you connect with CIC as well as the Canadian Embassy. MFC, once you apply and are accepted, we provide you letters that help assist that program in connecting with the embassy. We are also a approved designated learning institution, so we have a DLI number with CIC. Then we'll go to the next question. What documents do I need to apply? So when you're applying to MFC, you'll need an application form. You'll need Ielts, academic Ielts. You need your proof of high school graduation or your halfway marks if you're in grade 12, as well as your category 1 medical, at least underway if you don't have it in hand, and a passport. So we'll move on.
Where can I find the cost of flight training? Tuition varies by individual situation and on a number of factors, including choice of program. So please reach out to us personally for more information or more details in your situation. Is a Transport Canada CPL recognized worldwide? A Transport Canada license would be valid in Canada and for Canadian registered aircraft flying around the world. In order to fly for another region or to fly, for example, for an FAA or US registered aircraft, you would need to convert your licenses to that aviation authority. So examples would be like I said, the FAA, the DGCA, the JAA, which is the Joint Aviation Authority for Europe and things like that.
How do I come to Canada during the pandemic? We have seen a number of different rule changes as the pandemic has gone on, as protocols are always changing. You would need to follow up with all of the travel protocols in your country, check to make sure that you meet all the requirements for the Canadian as well as the province of New Brunswick, as some of the rules are constantly changing. We also have seen in most cases that traveling with a Canadian approved vaccine definitely helps the travel as well as the arrival process when coming into Canada. How can I obtain a category 1 medical outside of Canada? So like I said, I do have a link for everyone and it has a number you can search by country. If your country is not found on that list, we recommend traveling to the next closest country to get the medical done, because it can take several months with Transport Canada to get the process sorted out. So that's why we recommend you do it at the start of your application process. Along with that, once you have your medical, you'll have a good sense of if you'll be able to hold your category 1 or not.
Can international students obtain work permits? Students are typically allowed to work in Canada while they are studying in Canada on a study permit. Once they have completed their studies in Canada, they can apply for a postgrad work permit or a PGWP to work in Canada. This would typically be issued for the total length of time the student was studying, up to 3 years. MFC are there job opportunities post-graduation? MFC hires many instructors each year. We prefer to hire from our graduates once they have completed their training and hold an instructor rating. We like to do this whenever possible before we look outside MFC for staff. This would also include our international graduates who would like to instruct with MFC. The aviation industry is experiencing a pilot shortage, which will only be exacerbated post-COVID-19.
Does MFC training have on-campus accommodations? We don't have on-campus accommodations, but what we do have is a list of places that frequently rent to our students and have rented to in the past, which we send out in the student orientation guide. Students, of course, are more than welcome to look for other accommodations, but it also provides them a little bit more flexibility on what you want your living situation to look like. And what does a typical day in the life of a student look like? So typically your ground school is Monday to Friday, and it's in the late afternoons, early evenings, so that it leaves the daylight time and morning and afternoons for flying. So you'd be booked for what we call a unit. So you would have a flight or a briefing, and then you would have your ground school in the afternoon. Our flight ops is open 7 days a week, so you have all the days in the week to be scheduled for that. Yeah. So we'll move on to some of the live Q&A. So you should have a button there where you can type in your questions, and then we will answer them as we go.
There's one question here. Does MFC help in the visa procedure? We're very limited to what we can do. We do provide letters, as we've already stated, but in Canada, they're very strict about who can help and who can't. So we're not allowed to intervene in the immigration process.
I see one here that says, do students face an aircraft shortage? We can take up to 450 students at the college. So we have a dedicated team that works on scheduling. So we very rarely face that kind of shortage that you're asking about that other schools face.
Do flight instructor positions get full is the question. I assume, not sure if that's related to hiring or not, but like, we do hire, usually 40 to 50 instructors a year. We have over 100 on staff. They do get full-time hours as well, if that's also what the question was asking.
I see. What is the student instructor ratio? I believe right now it's 5 to 1. So we try to keep that roughly with all of our instructors. So,
how is the part-time job availability in Moncton? MFC doesn't hire students. We let them focus on the training. We don't restrict them from working, but there's not really a whole lot jobs we have on campus for them. But many students go either in the aviation community here at the airport or around the local community looking for jobs. I don't hear that there's a problem with them getting them.
I see a couple of people are asking specific questions about their situation. If you have those specific questions, you should just pop us an email. At the end, you'll see the email address and we can help you with your specifics. Is it possible to work during the professional course? We've seen students decide to hold part-time jobs. So yes, typically, as long as it works within visa regulations, we're more than welcome to find a part-time job as long as it doesn't impact your studies. Your choice.
I see we'd like to remind everybody that the questions we're taking questions through the Q&A question and answer section. I see some are starting to come in through the chat and stuff too. Does MFC have ground school classes? Yes, yeah, they're included in the programs. There's over 500 hours of ground school included in the programs. Can I pass medical if I have glasses? Typically with civil aviation versus military, glasses, vision can be correctable. So as long as you can meet a certain standard with glasses or contacts, you're usually fine. Usually you don't see much issue with it. You have to be able to see a certain amount while you're without your glasses in case they were to get lost or broken or something like that. But typically it works out for both, and the correctables both for vision and hearing as well.
I see, is a job as a pilot guaranteed after the program? Well, we cannot guarantee employment after the instructor program. We do look at our new grads before we look outside the organization. And in a typical year, we hire new grads. Is the instructor rating required to get a job after graduating from Icpc? No, you will have your commercial pilot's license after you finish the Icpc program. So some people decide that they want to do instructor and they'll take the instructor rating. Some people want to go and do bush piloting. That is an option. Basically, you start with the smaller aircraft that you learned on, and then you get to bigger and bigger. But you have a number of different routes that your career can take. If you don't want to instruct, you're welcome to work with just a commercial airline license.
I see some questions here about loans and stuff. MFC does not offer financing. Domestic students in Canada would usually be eligible for student loans, government loans, and things like that. Those programs are not available to international students.
I see one that says, does the Icpc course include instrument rating? Yes. So you go from 0, you get your PPL, then your CPL, then your multi-engine, then your instrument rating, and then your Frozen Atpl.
Somebody's asking if they, I think if they can come directly right after grade 12. Yeah, I mean, these programs are all geared towards you knowing nothing about aviation. Most of our students come to us right after high school. It's the sooner you get into the program, the sooner you get out, the sooner you're getting out into the workforce and starting to get that experience and make the wage.
I see a couple different questions about the Frozen ATPL. So an ATPL, you need 1,500 hours to get into the major airlines. Typically, you do an exam and it's only good for 2 years. You have to get your hours in 2 years. With our Frozen ATPL, it extends that time out to 5 years. So you do your exams here, and then you have 5 years to get that 1,500 hours. So all you have to do is go out and work.
We don't, the instructor rating is a separate program from the commercial. We don't have anything that includes both. You need to be completed your commercial training before we can look at you for the instructor rating, before you can start on the program, before we accept you and things like that. So they are separate, but you're welcome to join the instructor rating once you have completed the commercial training.
I see one question is, how is flying in snow? Does it affect training? Of course, depending on weather, there's certain levels that our aircraft can fly in. Our program does factor in that there might be snow days. We are in Canada. It's something that we have come to expect. So you might have a snow day one day, but the next day everything's plowed out and you're ready to fly. So it doesn't affect training. That we work around it.
Do you accept students with previous training or a foreign license, things like that? We can. There are limited. Transport Canada limits the amount of credits you can have coming into the full-time programs. With previous training, you also need to hold a Canadian private license to be able to get that credit. So normally the first step would be start one of the full-time programs, and while you're doing ground school and things, you would work on a conversion of your foreign PPL, FAA, or whatever, and then you would continue on with the program.
When should I apply? When should I apply for the September 2020 diploma course? So we haven't fully started sending out a letter of acceptance for the September 22 diploma course, but you can start applying at any point. And then once that opens, you'll be processed through and get your letters then if you're accepted.
I see someone's asking about the difference between Moncton and Fredericton. All our domestic training is offered at Moncton campus. So that would be international students as well as domestic students. Fredericton is for a different side of our operation.
Are there any checklists available for travel, especially during these times? You say like insurance. In Canada, our internet, or in New Brunswick, our international students are covered under the health coverage. So you don't need that as the province supplies that. If you're talking about air insurance, you're covered under the schools, so you should be set there. I don't have any checklists available for travel, but if you check those websites, the Canada one and the province one, they have lists of requirements, things you have to have in place before you travel. So that would be what I would recommend going to. I also see, how is the COVID situation there? In New Brunswick, we are in what we call green phase. So we have no restrictions. Our campus, the way that the campus is run, we have it situated so that if we were to go into red, which is our step before lockdown, we're still flying. So we wrote our document and our school plan like we would be able to run no matter what's happening other than lockdown.
Are the class materials included in the cost? Yes, everything except uniforms and accommodations is included in the tuition.
Can you give info about the aviation language proficiency test and how it takes? So that test is actually done once you arrive here. With one of our instructors does them, so you would get it done. It kind of sounds like you're talking on a phone. Would be the best way for me to give you a description of what it's like.
Yeah, it will get taken care of between year 1 and year 2 if someone's already on the degree program.
I see. When is the best time to come to Canada for the January intake? I would go look at those requirements. So I know in some cases, if you are fully vaccinated, you can, come and don't have to isolate. I know some people have isolation requirements. I would just go check to see what your case is and then go from there.
I see questions about permanent residency and things like that. Those are questions you all need to ask for the CIC or immigration through the embassy, Canadian embassy. Asking if we can go directly to commercial airlines from completing the programs. The answer is no. You do need to build experience to be able to work for an airline once you graduate. So usually, you graduate with around 200 hours. You need 1,500 minimum to have an airline transport license. So you do start for smaller companies and work your way up, or starting instructing with us. How is the pilot shortage in Canada? Probably just about the same as anywhere else. We're in the middle of COVID. So while we were in a huge pilot shortage prior to COVID, the industry's on pause, waiting for everything to return to normal. The industry fully expects that once COVID is over and things to start to return back to normal, that the shortage will be amplified quite a bit.
I see, do we fly at the Moncton airport? Yes, we do. We fly at the international airport here. It's the Greater Moncton Romeo LeBlanc International Airport. I see a question about the recording to this meeting. It is being recorded and will be sent out to you. So if your internet's not good, don't worry, you'll be able to see it.
All aircraft recognized by DGCA. So I understand that our Cessna 172 and the DA-20R are current. The Seminole, our main Seminole, Piper Seminole for the multi-engine training, I don't believe is, but we do have access to a multi-engine aircraft that is approved by DGCA for whenever we need it. So we do have that covered as well.
I see. What determines which campus you'll be training out of? All of the programs that we talked about in this webinar are done out of our Moncton campus. Our professional programs are all done out of Moncton, so that would be the one you'd be coming to.
Does MFC help with getting a job after graduating? Absolutely. You can work as an instructor with us, and then we have a number of sister companies, regional carriers in Canada that you can move up to once you've got some experience working with MFC as an instructor.
There's a couple questions about when we give the letter of acceptances out. Once we have everything, once we have a full application and it's in, we process it through, and then the letters are given out. Depending on the time of year, it could be a little longer, a little shorter, but we try to aim for week, 2 weeks at most. So if you don't have, if you're missing a element of your application, that will slow you down, but other than that, should be good.
When is our next intake? So that's simply said, January 10th would be the next integrated commercial pilot course intake. Hourly wage of a class 4 instructor, I believe it's just over $23 an hour, and Canadian funds, of course. But
how many students will be in a class? It depends on the program. It depends on which intake you're in. So when we are doing it in person, we have smaller classes so that they can fit in classrooms, but it can vary. Unhelpful, but it can vary depending on a number of things. So does the Icpc course go at our pace, or our dates and classes fixed? So the Icpc is part of the professional program, so it has ground school and is a very structured class. We have 3 intakes a year, so it's not go at your own pace. You're moving along with the class.
Is any job guarantee? We do hire many instructors each year, but you do have to pass a job interview and stuff first, right? So.
Can international students find work as bush pilots? Once you complete one of the professional programs, you'll be eligible for your post-grad work permit. And then if you want to go find a job as a bush pilot, you would be more than qualified.
Again, we see lots of specific questions about somebody's situation. Those are all questions that are best just handled one-on-one. So with, personally contact us or whatever.
Do you provide accommodations for international students? We don't have accommodations on site, but like I said, we do have a list of places that our students typically rent in the past. And then you can, reach out. We give this to you so you can reach out and ask a couple questions for. So we don't have them, but we can guide you the best we can.
Somebody's currently first year at Mount A and asking when they should do the medical. Yesterday. We have no idea how many months the medical process will take, especially now with COVID and delays and things. So yeah, get it going as soon as you can.
What is the ratio of girls and boys typical on Icpc intake? It really depends on the year. There's some years that there's like a 50-50. There's some years that the boys are more, there's some years that the girls are more. It depends on who's applying.
Somebody's asking the predicted quarantine requirements for January. It's a moving target. As it stands today, if you're vaccinated by Canadian standards, and you test negative at the border, you are not required to quarantine. But if you aren't vaccinated to Canadian standards, then you would need to isolate for 14 days. But that could change at any time, and it could change 50 ways. But that's as it stands today.
Is owning a car necessary at Moncton? Nope, not at all. We see some students with cars, we see some students without cars. What typically ends up happening is you make friends with your classmates really easily because you guys tend to be a small knit bunch. So I see a lot of students carpool, so that's an option. There is public transportation. A lot of the places that we have on the accommodations list is in walking distance of the campus, so you should be fine without owning a car.
All of our modular programs are set as self-paced, self-study. This means that there are not structured ground school classes included, as opposed to our full-time programs.
I have a question here. Are your aircraft glass cockpit? I believe we have one, and it wasn't by design. Most of them are gauges. But there is one in there, and you might get it because it's scheduled in the same as all the others. I see a couple questions in here about student loans. If you're a permanent resident, you'd have to go double check that question with them. That would be a case by case basis.
But you'd have to check with your home province student loans as well. That's who it would go through. When is the best month to start Icpc or really any of the programs? It really doesn't matter. We see 4 seasons here in Atlantic Canada, so you get a good wide snippet of worldwide weather, I guess, for your training. But it really doesn't, it doesn't matter. You're going to see all 4 seasons either way, whether you start in January, May, or August. You're gonna start with winter, or you're gonna start with spring, or you're gonna start with summer, but you're still gonna flow through. So it really doesn't have an effect. The King Air aircraft is not part of the flight training. Again, we have that on for another part of our operation. We do these programs that we're talking about would offer King Air simulator training, but not in the aircraft.
How long does it take to complete the instructor rating in MFC? Once you're done the programs and you make all the acceptance process, the exam, and the interview, it takes about 3 to 4 months.
Sorry, we're just filtering through questions here, guys.
Are there any student help centers in MFC to guide students with part-time jobs? There isn't something like that in place. Mind you, it's pretty popular to use like Indeed.com to find part-time jobs in Moncton. So if you're looking outside of the, we don't have part-time jobs on campus, but you should be able to find one kind of through those areas. So it shouldn't be a problem. Are there many days during winter months that flights are grounded? It depends on the type of winter we have. So it's the same thing as if you have like a rainy period. There's some years that you have, seems like a storm every other day, and there's some that you can go 3 or 4 weeks without having a snowstorm and it's just kind of overcast. So it just depends on the type of winter. Yeah.
How many students are in a ICPC class? Varies by intake. You know, you could, could be anywhere from 15 to 20 or up to 30. It just depends on the time of year and the intake and the year.
So there's one that says, is ground school classes we'll be having for modular program? If you're looking for ground school, you're looking more for our professional program, because that is all of your flight training laid out for you and it's structured for you. Whereas the modular is self-paced, self-study, and it's kind of on your own for ground school options.
Again, get people asking about immigration details and matters. You would need to contact Canadian Immigration, CIC, or through the nearest Canadian embassy to answer those questions.
I see one is MFC is limited seats, so we keep an eye on how many students we have so that we are, don't run into scheduling problems and things like that. So if you're looking to apply and secure your seat, we can definitely help you out with that. So yeah. So when we get an application come in, we definitely talk to the person, look over the application, ask any questions. So you would get a fairly prompt answer, and we would walk you through the process. Someone just asking about applying.
Is a degree fully required by airlines in Canada? Nope. Obviously it's a higher level of education. It doesn't hurt to have it, but all you really need to work for airline is a commercial pilot license in Canada and the experience that they require.
So there's one that says, do you have any connection with the airline? So we are owned by a company called Exchange Income Corporation, who in turn then owns a number of smaller regional carriers. Carrie can list more of them off than what I can, but a lot of our sister companies all try to and frequently look for our students. So we do have that connection. It streamlines the process. So you have PAL Airlines, you have Air Borealis, you have Perimeter Airlines, you have Latin. There's more that I'm missing, but those are just some to name a few.
Yeah, there's 7 or 8. There's Calm Air as well.
Calm Air, yeah.
Yeah, so they're spread out all over the country. So
what's also neat when you're here at MSC, instead of having like room numbers, our rooms are actually named after our sister companies. So you walk into on your first day to the PAL room, and so that shows you just how close we are with our sister companies.
Somebody's asking if the programs, if a one-year program really completes within a year. That's what our goal is. That's what we strive for. The students need to, make up that pace as well, right? So in most cases, we get pretty close.
Does the virtual ground school affect the integrated ground school program? Is it shortened? So it's not shortened. The integrated program is set as such to get you your Frozen Atpl in the end. We have a number of classes that are actually running in person. So our August Icpc program is running in person right now, and we're moving more and more to having in-person ground school when we can. So.
And that's actually a little bit different. We wouldn't consider that virtual ground school. Virtual ground school is something different that we offer towards a private license, and those classes don't count towards full-time programs.
I see a couple questions here about asking about like specific students from specific areas. We have international students from all over the world. So we have some from all over, basically.
And we have upwards of, 300 to 500 students at any one time. So it's hard for us to answer that question on a dime.
Can international students find work as bush pilots, and is CPL good enough for that job? Yes, you'd be eligible for your postgrad work permit, and then you have a commercial license when you complete any of our programs, so you would be eligible if that's the route you want your career to take.
Question is, do we offer training in Labrador? So again, currently all our programs are offered out of Moncton. We did do a summer campus in Labrador this summer for local private license training, things like that. We are planning on looking at it again for next year, but again, it wouldn't be any of the commercial options at the moment.
So I see job opportunities if I don't get an instructor at MFC. You have a commercial pilot license, so there's a number of different routes that your career can take if you don't want to do instructor. It's just kind of figuring out which one you want. If you want to pop us an email, I have a good link that you would like to see, because it tells you about different career pathways.
Where do people get to fly on course is another question. It generally all over Atlantic Canada for the most part when we're on training.
What days will we be flying training in a week? So flight ops is open 7 days a week, so you can fly any day. Ground school is typically Monday to Friday in the late afternoons, early evenings, to leave the best flying weather available to the students.
Is there any vacation between the program? It depends on the program. Again, timelines are all different, schedules, things like that. So be depending on the program. Extending a study permit to do further training. Yeah, I believe it's just something you apply to. You apply for the extension with Immigration Canada when the time comes.
Is there a Muslim prayer room in MFC? There isn't, but if you need a quiet spot, you can just come and let us know, and we'd be able to find somewhere quiet for you to.
I believe, yeah, she's right. We don't have a specific spot at the moment, but we have made those accommodations in the past. I a few years ago, I remember that.
Is French important language in Canada, and what are the benefits of learning French? I speak very little French. I get by on like the things you learned in high school, and that's about it. But in Moncton, you don't need to know French. A lot of times, if someone is speaking French, you can say, "Hi, how are you?" and they'll switch to English. If you want to learn it, that would be your call, but you don't need to.
It's also, English is the standard language for aviation all over the world. So definitely, even in Canada, it's English that's the important one, not French. I see a couple compliments in here. Thank you very much, everybody, saying nice things about us. What else we got here? How long does it take to get to 1,500 hours as an instructor? Well, that's a loaded question. But anyway, we'll take a stab at it. So, you basically, like I said, you graduate with 200 hours. We need to get to 1,500 hours. You start building hours as an instructor. That typically, we see instructors moving off to airlines, especially in the last few years. That sometimes, in some cases, at the 2 to 3 year mark. Depends how hard they want to work. I mean, we've got lots of work for instructors. Some Some tend to work harder than others, but for somebody that really wants to go after getting things done as fast as you can, I mean, now's the time, and you can make it happen. Like we were saying earlier, we expect the industry to bounce back, you know, strong when COVID is over. And yeah, I mean, we've seen prior to COVID, we were seeing instructors move on at unprecedented rates, and which also opens it up for the new instructors to get in and start building their time. You know, where it is COVID and in the industry's on pause, it's a great time to get in and get training done because the industry's on pause waiting for you to catch up, right? So yeah. Is Carrie a commercial pilot / flight instructor? I am. I did the Icpc program in 2008. I was 34 years old, and I taught on the instructor line for a couple of years anyway, and then somehow I ended up with this position. So really like what I'm doing and have a lot of fun with it.
I'm not. I leave that to the students, and I just keep you guys running and providing information.
But Lydia did come to us from Mount A, though. So
I did come from Mount A, yes.
Yeah, so she's good at answering all those Mount A questions for people.
Any small course suggestions before coming to Moncton? Nope. So the program is designed for, you know, a zero knowledge base to get you to commercial pilot. So you don't have to do any, you know, pre-education before you come to us other than your high school. What is the difficulty level of a Canadian CPL exam? Do you want to answer that one, Carrie?
Sorry, I was thinking about another question. What is the difficulty level of the Canadian CPL exams? I've done them, but I don't have any comparison. I've never done them anywhere else. We see people sometimes have a little bit of challenges with the PPL exams, the private, simply because they've never seen them before, they've never done them before, it's all new. They're multiple choice exams all done on computer. We download them for Transport Canada and you write them on the computer. But we typically, when they get to the commercial ones, they typically find them not as hard, probably because they've got all that extra experience now, right? So, and they've seen them before and they've got more knowledge and things like that. So yeah, typically not too bad. Now I see another question here. What makes MSC different from other flying schools in Canada? Well, we're the largest flight school in Canada. We've been around since 1929. The 22,000 pilots plus we've trained. I usually tell people, if you're going through an airport, now I don't know about how different places of the world, but usually in Canada, I tell them, you know, go stop a pilot in an airport and ask them, where would you go to school, or where did you go to school, or where should I go to school? And I'd be surprised if they didn't at least know who we were. We have a very good reputation. Our level of professionalism, we train just like, you know, we run dispatch like an airline. So, you know, there's not that many differences when you get to the airline. You're like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm used to, that sort of thing. I mean, the staff that we have over 100 instructors, the airplanes that we have 57, the number of hours we fly a year. I mean, I know 90,000 flight hours doesn't mean much to most people, but that is really over 10 years. So that's what we fly in 1 year. If you were physically able to fly an airplane for 24 hours a day, nonstop, which of course is impossible, but if you could, those hours would be over 10 years. So that's a pretty good number that we fly every year. What else? I mean, the weather conditions that we see here, the fact that we see the 4 seasons, and you're not flying, you know, you're flying and you're training in real world conditions instead of just, you know, training in perfect weather all the time. And then when you get out in the real world, you've got to get used to, oh, I've never seen this before. So things like that.
So I see one question here. It says, once a Cat 1 expires, done outside of Canada by CAME, what do you do? So if you have a Cat 1 medical already and it's expired, it's still you can still use it for non-commercial training for 3 years? 5 years. Okay, 5 years. But what you would then do, so you would come and you'd start your PPL with your expired one, and then once you moved on to the commercial side of things, you would just go and get that renewed. By then you would also have your booklet too, so you can just get that stamped. So although it's expired, it's not, it's better to have it and then get it renewed when needed.
Yeah, it's an easier process. You essentially go through the same medical exam, but you don't have to wait to hear back from TC. They stamp it right there. The other thing is that it can be done with any doctor. You don't with any
CME.
Transport Canada approved doctor. Yeah, the CAME. You don't have to go back to the same one that you did your original exam with. You could visit. You know, I need it renewed. I did it at home. Well, you can do it in Moncton, kind of thing. So no biggie there.
During the 4-year Mount A program, can training be completed before a 4-year period? So when it comes to the Mount Allison program, your first year is like a typical university year. And then your second year, you start your PPL training. And then your third year, you do your commercial training. And then your fourth year is the rest of the training that you have. So your time building, your multi, your IFR. So it can't be done sooner than that, nor would you want it to be sooner than that, because you want, when you're finishing your university degree, you'd also be finishing your flight training, and then you have your full 5 years of your Frozen Atpl open to you for flying. So that's why we have it that way.
We don't typically, somebody's asking if we can fly in the United States. Typically, we don't fly into the United States. You would need special approval to do that.
What is the minimum IELTS score to apply in MSc? We are looking for academic IELTS with an overall of 6 and then 6 in each category.
How many hours will a flight instructor, a flight simulator be allowed in Canada? I don't have the regulations in front of me. It's going to vary by program, but there are some flight simulator hours included. How many students enrolled in this September intake? Okay, so yeah, we started our diploma class last Tuesday on the 7th. And while we had a record number last year, we had an even greater record number this year. So we started with 52 students last Tuesday. And our biggest intake prior to that was last year at 38, and prior to that was 36 a number of years ago. So yeah, things are really strong for us. Do you accept other English tests like TOEFL? Typically, we are looking for IELTS. We can take a look at other ones, but the IELTS exam is what gives us the closest. There's actual comparison chart for the ICAO English language test for aviation. So we can take a look at them and see if we can work with it, but we're definitely looking for IELTS as a first choice.
So what is the usual career path MSc graduate takes? It really depends on the person. Some decide to stay on and do instructor and then go to major airlines. Some want to do bush piloting. Some take weaving turns to go and do other things. But if you're interested, I would recommend reaching out. And then we have some different options that you can look to see the various pathways that a pilot's career can take.
How many students are expected in the upcoming January intake? It's really early. We're looking in the 12 to 15 range at the moment.
Do I need IELTS if I already have an ICAO English proficiency test? What I would recommend doing is reaching out to us and with what you have, and then we can kind of go from there and look more in depth at your case. And then, is the competition high for flight instructing jobs at MFC after completing Icpc? After you complete the instructor rating, we look to hire new grads every year. I don't know the ratio off the top of my head, but I know that we hire, new instructors every year. Before COVID, we were hiring between 40 and 50 new instructors every year. So that number is expected to bounce back to around the same. So I think we've covered all the questions. So we don't know. I see a question here about a specific aviation exams. For MFC, we don't require you to come. So I don't have an answer for that. I would recommend looking into like CIC and things like that. So I see a question of how does the student lifestyle in Moncton differ from a bigger city? I'm conflicted between MFC and a flight school in Montreal. The two cities are very different, but I prefer Moncton. And the reason for that is a lot of people wouldn't consider Moncton a big city in the traditional sense, but it's one of those things that you get to know everyone here at MFC. There's something called the maritime hospitality is kind of what we're known for. So you have people that are very friendly and they want to get to know you, and that is the kind of a big perk of coming from afar and making a life here. Because I'm not originally from Moncton, but it helps to make you feel a little closer to home because you're with all kinds of friendly people. In addition to the fact that we are on a less busy airport than some of the other flight schools in Canada. So we get you in the air faster and have training locations basically at your fingertips. So you'll get some more details on orientation after you've been accepted and closer to the time. So I would wait on that question there for that one. I think we're just about to wrap it up because there's so many questions. We've answered a lot. If you still have a burning question, you should be able to see on your screen your next steps, which is to connect with us either via social media or email. Even if you're on the website, if you see that chat function, I'm on the other end of that. So if you have a quick question, I'm more than happy to help. And then if it's a long enough answer, I can send you an email with more details. So we'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and you feel free to reach out to us.
I see one more here. Somebody wants to start in May. When we definitely would recommend starting the application process internationally. Ideally, you should start at the 6-month mark, but at the very least at the 4-month mark. And again, the medical process should start at least around the time of application, if not before. So I see lots of people thanking us. No, thank you for attending, and we're glad we could help. That's why we did it.